You know, the coolest thing about having a motorcycling YouTube channel is getting to ride a lot of bikes. You could say I'm spoiled, and I'd agree. It's easy for someone who tests a lot of motorcycles to get all jaded and picky, and I have to say, my standards are high. I've ridden a lot of bikes, so the highest compliment I can pay a motorcycle is to buy it with my own money. Now, I have my Tenere 700, which does a lot of things well, and I got that bike because I love riding on-road, off-road, carrying gear, and getting the most out of one jack-of-all-trades machine. However, as I get more and more into off-road riding, I find myself pining for a dedicated dirt bike. Yes, I can ride my T7 off-road, and I've ridden even much bigger bikes over some gnarly terrain. But let's face it, this thing with all the accessories I've packed on it weighs 480 pounds or more, and as capable as it is still a pig on the trail compared to pure off-road motorcycles. Near the end of last season, I took it out on the dirt and had a really dumb fall where I went down on a slippery section, landed on both hands, and then had to wait months for my wrists to heal. Thankfully, it was almost winter and I wasn't missing saddle time, but that made me even more eager for a pure dirt bike. However, I'm also very busy, and the thought of adding another engine to maintain to my schedule doesn't appeal to me at all. 4-stroke, 2-stroke, doesn't matter. I don't want another oil filter spark plug change, carb and valve adjustments, or top-end rebuilds. I want to ride, not wrench. Enter the Sur-Ron Ultra B. All of the fun at a fraction of the work. With a few upgrades, this bike will meet my specific dirt riding needs. To find out why I liked it so much and why I'm getting one, stay tuned. And if you're enjoying the content, please help a channel out by hitting all the buttons, yada yada. Electric road motorcycles are not ready for prime time yet. Battery range is the main issue, as motorcycles, unlike cars which can stuff batteries into their entire floor, can only carry so much battery on board. The battery takes the place of the gas tank and top of the engine, and at the level of current technology, we can get an advertised 100 miles or 160 kilometers out of a typical e-motorcycle. Factor in things such as hills, head and crosswinds, and poor pavement, which increases rolling resistance, in other words, the real world, and range drops by a quarter. Then good luck finding a charging station if you end up in the boonies somewhere low on electrons. However, dirt bikes don't have the same problem. They don't need massive range to spend a morning or an afternoon goofing around on trails. They don't need to hit very high top speeds unless you're rally racing, which I don't. On the contrary, they need to be great at low speed maneuvering, which means they need to be as light as possible, have lots of torque from the bottom of the rev range to climb up steep hills, and have good suspension and ground clearance to roll over obstacles. On the trail, slower speeds and tight bends conserve battery life, as electric motors are actually more efficient than stop-and-go riding. Regenerative braking, whether with the engine or the brakes, actually recharges the battery every time the bike slows down or goes downhill. Furthermore, electric motors have the distinct advantage of being able to pull hard from 0 RPM, making them exceptionally good at climbing steep hills. Now, Sur-Ron is best known for their Light BX, a motorcycle mountain bike hybrid I tested a few weeks back, vid in the top right corner. This bike made a splash when it dropped because it is basically a very light trail bike with good power, which can be used for riding dirt, but also doing all kinds of crazy tricks. An entire subculture has grown around these machines, with get-togethers and group rides taking over the streets in major cities and young talented riders performing wild stunts. However, the Light B has mountain bike suspension and brakes, and for hardcore trail riding, people began to upgrade them in every way possible. Bigger batteries, new controllers, wheels, forks, shocks, brakes, you name it, someone is making it and selling it online. And while that's great for Sur-Ron, becoming an icon and building huge aftermarket support is always good for a brand, the company decided to build a bike that included all the upgrades owners were making to their Light Bs, and the Ultra B was born. Now, Sur-Ron also makes a full-size dirt bike called the Storm B, but the new Ultra B slots in between the Light and Storm B in terms of weight and power. I saw the Ultra B at the motorcycle show this winter and took serious note of it, especially its low weight of 187 pounds, considerably under the lightest 300cc two-strokes, which are 50 to 80 pounds heavier. And so when the summer came, I got the bike to test for a week and a half, and I'm buying it. No one is paying me to say that, giving me discounts or any other backdoor dealings. I'm breaking out my own wallet and buying an Ultra B to ride on the smooth, flowy trails near my home, and the much rougher, rockier, and gnarlier trails near my cottage in central Ontario. Why this bike? Let's look at the facts and figures first. The Ultra B is smaller and lighter than most enduro-type bikes out there. It runs a 74-volt 55 amp-hour battery and puts out 12.5 kilowatts of power with 325 pound-feet of torque. That will sound weird to most riders of gasoline machines, as 12.5 kilowatts translates to 16.8 horsepower and the torque figure just sounds like fairy tales. But electric motors are different, and I like the power characteristics of this bike. It can go 90 kilometers per hour or 55 miles per hour in a straight line, climb any hill, and also provides enough fine throttle control to finesse your way down the trail. I'm a beginner to hard enduro riding, but this machine gives me the confidence to improve my skills and tackle terrain I wouldn't ride on heavier bikes. It's a pretty techy bike with 3 rider modes, Eco, Daily, and Sport, as well as 3 levels of traction control which can also be completely turned off. I ran the lowest level of TC and mostly used Eco mode to get to the technical trails and Daily mode for the trails themselves. Eco gives you a top speed of 55 kilometers per hour and Daily gives you the full 90, but of course uses up more battery. Sport mode sucks up the battery very fast and is quite aggressive, so I didn't much use it other than one extended rip down a very straight, very flat trail at the end of a ride when I had plenty of battery power left over. One additional feature is a reverse gear, which for a bike this light is not necessarily needed, but it can come in handy on the trail once in a while. As for range, the big question usually asked about electric motorcycles, Sur-Ron lists a maximum range of 140 kilometers or about 87 miles in Eco mode, going 40 kilometers per hour or 25 miles per hour. No one will be riding like this on this bike, so here's what I found. If you're my weight, currently about 175 pounds without gear, you can bring this bike to the trail and blast it around non-stop for 3 hours, at which point you'll need a charge. I went on one ride with some 2-stroke dirt bikes and we covered about 33 kilometers of mixed terrain at various speeds in Daily mode, and when I got back to my truck, I still had 46% battery life left after playing all morning. Pretty impressive, and for now all I need. If ever in the future I want to ride more in one day, I'll buy an extra battery and swap it mid-ride. Something that can't be done on the much more trick and expensive Stark Varg, an upcoming bike which is supposed to be the bee's knees of MX motorcycles. The battery charging speed is one of the things you can set in the various menus of the bike, and at the fastest speed the battery can be charged from 0 to 100% in 4 hours. One other thoughtful feature of the Ultra B is the storage compartment under the seat, which is shaped to specifically carry the charger, so if you ever ride to a friend's house and have lunch or hang out for a bit, you can top up your bike for the return trip. A great idea. Other adjustable features on the Sur-Ron Ultra B are the amount of regen you get from engine braking as well as using your actual brakes. You can dial this into your preferences. I ran these in the middle modes and it felt fine. Throttle sensitivity has 3 settings, and I used the lowest, which I felt most helped me finesse my way through tight bends. You can override the feature that turns off power when brakes are applied, which allows you to run the motor and brakes at the same time. Let's call that the burnout switch. Finally, there is a feature which cuts the motor if the bike tilts beyond a certain point, which you can turn off if you're going to ride serious motocross or extreme terrain. Overall, these menus allow riders to dial in the bike to their preferences and the kinds of riding they're going to do, which makes the Ultra B pretty versatile. In terms of suspension, the bike delivers 240mm or 9.4 inches of travel at both ends, and the suspension is fully adjustable. The unit I tested was set to the middle of the road user and I found it worked well, but when I get my own, I'll have to play around with the settings. Ground clearance, which with the stock wheels is about 12.5 inches, is enough to clear some pretty big rocks and logs, but still falls behind other hard enduro bikes. It's honestly good enough for me, and with a bigger wheel set will improve further. More on that later. The seat height is 35.8 inches, which is tall for a motorcycle but relatively low for a dirt bike. The seat is narrow, which makes reaching the ground easier with my 33-inch inseam and weight. Brooke, who has a 31-inch inseam and compresses the suspension less with her 120 pounds, found the seat tall. The things which limit the Ultra B the most are wheels and tires. The stock bike runs 19-inch wheels front and back with pretty thin tube-type tires. While these wheels maximize efficiency and range with their low weight and rolling resistance, when the terrain gets extreme, they can be a little short on traction. On very muddy trails where the guys on the two strokes were running tubeless 21 and 18-inch wheel combos with 8 psi in their thicker rear tires, you could tell there was a traction gap in addition to the skill gap. I was the least skilled rider in the group. Here's where the Ultra B owner has some choices. If you're primarily going to ride hard-packed dry surfaces like the flowy single track by my house, you will be happy with the traction and efficiency the stock wheels provide. If you're going into more extreme trails like the ones by my cottage, you can buy tubeless 21 18-inch wheels and fit them with rubber more appropriate to the terrain. I'll probably ride a bit on the stock wheels, then spring for a more capable set later. The Ultra B does have enough ground clearance to accommodate a bigger wheel set. Finally, seating position is your typical dirt bike fare. At 6 feet tall, I found it natural and comfortable with plenty of legroom. The bars are a bit too low for me in the standing position, so either risers or a taller handlebar might be in my future. Other than new wheels, extra battery, and new handlebar, the only other thing I'd replace are the stock handguards. I'll throw on some bark busters to protect my levers. The stock bash plate is sufficient to protect the motor underneath the bike, and it helps that there are no oil pans or exhaust systems to be damaged on rocks and roots. So, the price. The stock bike runs $6,000 US or $8,000 Canadian, which some will say is expensive and others will see as a deal. For comparison's sakes, the electric KTM Freeride XC costs almost twice as much in Canada, and a typical 300cc two-stroke will still cost way more. Of course, those bikes will come with better wheel-tire combinations than the Ultra B, but even after buying a set of wheels and tires, the Sur-Ron rider still pays thousands less, and has an extra wheel set. Some other details. The bike comes with a USB port to charge your phone. It can also be set up as a road-legal dual sport, which I'm never going to do. It's a better dirt bike than a dual sport, as riding on the road at high speeds eats up the battery way faster. So the question is, to electric or not to electric? And the answer is, depends on your needs. If, like me, you want something really light and low maintenance, drive your bike to the trail, and ride tight stuff and want incredible climbing power, all at a very reasonable price, the answer may be to electric. Additionally, I like the fact that there are no gears or back foot brake to operate, leaving the rider's feet and full attention on guiding the bike to the best line. Some will lament the loss of the clutch to regulate engine power, but to me the throttle can be finessed well enough so that I won't much miss the clutch. On the other hand, if you like to ride a significant distance to the trail, ride in longer events, fill up with gas in the middle of your ride, or simply like spending time working on your bike, you're probably better off with a 2 or a 4-stroke. Every rider has to make these decisions for themselves, and the Sur-Ron Ultra B fits my needs nicely and is being offered at a great price. Other Sur-Rons have proven to be reliable, and I don't expect the Ultra B to suddenly buck that trend. I'm looking forward to getting this bike and building up my skills, and am happy to add electric to the 2 and 4-stroke engine categories. I love riding in the woods and near silence. It gives me a chance to enjoy the peace and solitude of the outdoors. So yes, it's exciting to make the decision to buy a new bike, and I hope to track one down soon, though they are selling out rather quickly. Whether you're a seasoned dirt rider or have never dirt biked before but are contemplating getting into it, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on electric dirt bikes in general and the Sur-Ron Ultra B in particular. Would you consider this or the Light or Storm B as your trail weapons? Why or why not? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching and ride safe out there.